Put the phone up. There we go. And let's kick it off with a joke.
All right. What do you call it when a cow grows facial hair?
When a cat, I have no idea.
A mustache. That's right. I'll be here all week.
I'll
I'll be here all week. Put my Cash App at the bottom of the screen so people can send me money for that joke.
That's a good one.
The Republican Party and Project 2025 literally wants to close the Department of Education. And no matter if you like charter schools or private schools, the fact is most kids will be educated through the public school system. The same way I was. My mother spent 30 plus years as a public educator. So I just can't align with things that close the doors for so many people, especially those that grew up in communities like I grew up in.
Lindsey McAdory Jr. is the CEO and chief strategist of CBG Strategies, a community engagement and communications strategy firm based in Birmingham, Alabama. He is also the co-founder and CEO of MacMail Advertising. For over 10 years, Lindsey has provided strategic campaign, communications, and political consulting to clients throughout Alabama and the Southeast, resulting in over 85 successful political and issue-based campaigns.
Man, so it's a very exciting time to be a Democrat in the state of Alabama, especially if you live in District 2. So this race, as everyone knows, this race was created to give primarily African Americans a shot of having true representation in this state. And so what we can't do right now is take that opportunity for granted. We have a candidate in Shamari Fickers who has the lived experience as well as the professional experience to really bring the resources that we need back to District 2. We're going to win this race through people, right? We believe in a grassroots movements, direct voter contact. So with that being said, we're working against an opponent who essentially has an unlimited source of income and resources.
Mm-hmm.
The opponent has already put somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 to 1.5 million of her own money into the race. So when we look at a dynamic like that, we know that we won't be able to go dollar for dollar for her on TV, right? We won't be able to buy as many fancy digital ads as she will. But one thing that we have is the people. And we believe that our volunteer support and our supporters will get us across the finish line. Our goal is not to try to outspend her. Our goal is to outwork her. And we know that we will. So one of the things I admire most about Shamari, especially being in the space that he's in, is that he speaks authentically. He's not recalling talking points that somebody handed to him. He's not just trying to be a good, Democrat or what have you. He's speaking from a standpoint of his lived experience and his professional experiences. And when he speaks, no matter what the issue is, he's giving you his true thoughts, right? Because I'm just going to use the word lie. When you lie or try to placate or kind of just dance to the tune of what's popular of the day, those things always get revealed, right? And that's how a lot of elected officials get in trouble. I think people appreciate authenticity, and that's what he brings to the table. So, he has 3 young children, right? And no matter what the issue is, one day they're going to be able to pick up a newspaper or go on the internet and read what their dad said about whatever the issue is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to him for when, those 3 babies 10 years from now reading what their dad said, that he's on the right side of history, right? And even if the stance is unpopular here in 2024, by 2034, that may be the thought of the day. But with Shamari figures, what you see is really what you get. There's no hidden agenda. There's no deeper conspiracy. When he says he believes in X, Y, and Z, that's really what it is.
If there is one issue that they are night and day on, what is it?
Pretty much all of them, but I'll flag one or two for you. So Project 2025 seeks to eliminate the Department of Education, right? Shamari is educated in public schools from kindergarten through law school. His wife is a former school teacher. So, the value he places on public education is of the highest level. And if you go read her literature or what she said in the past, I don't think she places that same value on public education. Shamari, if you hear him out on the campaign trail, one of the first things he says is, long story short, Alabamians have some of the lowest life expectancy in the nation. I think we're number 3 in terms of the worst health outcomes, and we die sooner than 47 other states. I think my math is right there. So the expansion of healthcare in our state is paramount, right? We are literally dying sooner because we don't have access to healthcare, and of course, Republicans don't believe, at least in this state, they've done everything in their power to keep our healthcare situation the way it is. Since we've gotten in this race, 3 rural hospitals in Congressional District 2 have shut down, right? And the right remains silent on that issue. Meanwhile, there's counties in that district, I think 4 counties share 4 ambulances, right? So if that 5th person who calls in with an emergency, they shouldn't be told, well, I'm sorry, it's going to take us an hour and a half to get to you. Right? That's just beyond comprehension that we live in one of the greatest nations in the world, but we can't get a sick person to the hospital in a time enough to save their lives. So those 2 issues in particular are 2 that, in my opinion, are just common sense issues. You support education, you support healthcare. Right? People want to jump to workforce development, but you can't really talk about workforce development when the kids aren't being properly educated. Right? If you're not educated, that's going to also lead to poor health outcomes. So those are 2 issues I think they're just polar opposites on. But I definitely think Shamari is on the right side.
Now that Kamala Harris is on the ticket, how do you think that impacts your chances? Because I think it shoots you through the roof.
Hey, I'll say it very simply. Black girl magic ain't dead. Okay. Whenever, you have a candidate that gets on the ticket unconventionally, and then 40,000 plus Black women get on the call and raise over $1 million. Then next night, you got 30,000 plus Black men get on the call and raise over $1 million. It's not about the money. It's about the enthusiasm. And we can't deny that VP Harris has brought a level of enthusiasm to this race that did not exist before. And that's in all appreciation and respect to President Joe Biden, who has been just a great public servant, not only over the course of his presidency, but really over the course of his entire career. But Kamala Harris presents something that we have never seen: an HBCU graduate, an AKA, right? That's my mama. It's literally my mother. So no, people are excited, and we are definitely benefactors of that excitement. I mean, we've seen our volunteer recruitment efforts go through the roof. We've seen our fundraising even shoot up since VP Harris has been in the race. So we couldn't be more excited to have her at the top of the ticket, and we're going to ride that wave.
What other candidates do you have down ballot that will be impacted by this wave, particularly from Black women?
Absolutely. So I'll give you another Black woman who happens to be an AKA, who's one of our clients, Yeshiba Blanchard, right here in Jefferson County, running for probate judge. Yeshiva has a very special background. She has a very deep history in veterans law as well as probate law. And I think the way that she won doing the primary is indicative to her work ethic. Yeshiva is everywhere all the time. I literally cannot keep up with her. But candidates like her, right, are going to benefit from the enthusiasm that Kamala Harris brings. So we just could not be more excited. So, I can take myself back mentally to 2017, and I can take myself back to, even telling my friends and family and coworkers that, I'm working on Randall Wolfen's mayoral race, and them all looking and saying, man, we think Randall's super smart, but he ain't gonna win. Right. We think you super smart, but you're not gonna win. But go ahead and do it anyway. And I remember all these ideas, right? I remember being on the phone or in the meeting room or what have you. And I remember when the idea for Birmingham Promise, it wasn't called that then, but I remember the first time when that conversation started. Well, how could we give kids in Birmingham City schools tuition to go to college? And it was so exciting, but it seemed a little far-fetched, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Randall standing in front of this abandoned home. I think we even put it on the mailer. And this particular home had been that way for like 7-8 years. And that commitment to, we really want to tear down these dilapidated structures. And I just remember all those conversations that happened behind the scenes. And now, 7 years later, seeing the progress that the Wolfen administration has been able to make for our city is just amazing. And I'm very blessed to have been a small part of getting us there. As I look towards the future, what I love most about Randall, Mayor Woodfin, my brother, Mayor Randall Woodfin, is he's still the same genuine person, right? We still having the similar conversations around issues in the city. He's not blind whatsoever to the issues that people talk about. And he has real plans and realistic goals to help change those issues and really bring change to our city. And he's earnest about it. But he's more than just earnest about it, right? You can be good willing. Like, I love basketball, but
right.
You don't want me in your starting five.
Right.
right. He has the skill set, the intellect, and just the team around him to actually execute, whether you're talking about the $50 million that's coming to Smithfield, right? Or if you're talking about all the grant opportunities that the city's been getting through the Department of Economic Opportunity. I mean, there's been transformational change. Randall, in my estimation, is not an incremental leader. He's a transformational leader. And I'm just really appreciative to be a part of it. And, as we look to the future and we look to him running for a third term, for me, it's about, all right, how do we put an exclamation point on everything that we've done so far and ensuring that it's sustainable, right? So what I don't want to happen is if Randall serves one more term or 2 more terms or whatever it ends up being, I don't want to hear, man, when Wolfen was in office, we had X, Y, and Z. And now he's gone and now we don't. We fail if that's the case. I grew up in Fairfield, where the great Mayor Larry Langford was the mayor, and we had a good life in Fairfield. It wasn't perfect, but Larry Langford cared about the people. He brought resources. And now when you look at the current state of my beloved hometown, it's not where we would like for it to be, but I remain optimistic that Fairfield will become the great city that it once was and what it should be. I just don't want that story to be for Birmingham. Whenever Randall decides to exit, I want this city to continue to grow and be sustainable. But that starts with the current leadership, and I hope that we're being smart about building sustainable infrastructure. But man, I mean, just in very simple language, 2017 forever changed the course of my entire life. right? I mean, I was working in corporate. I had the political business on the side, and I don't think I've ever publicly told the story, but when so I'm working, right, and I got my baby's McKenna, who's now 7 years old, second grade. He was like serious, just a few months old, and they pulled me into the office at work just after we got in the runoff, and they said, "Hey, we hear that you're going to quit and go do politics full time." And what was funny at that time, I thought, eventually I'll like grow this thing and be able to quit. But that really was not the case. I wasn't planning to quit anytime soon. Again, my baby was 3-4 months old. But them saying it made me think, well, damn, maybe I should be making my exit payment. And I did. I asked God to show me 6 months of income. We won in October. I asked God to show me 6 months of income. By January, he showed me. I handed my 2 weeks notice in, and I've never looked back. And that road hadn't been easy. I empty out 80% of my 401k to float myself through, doing those early, that first year and really the first couple of years. But we made it through, and we've the team and I have been able to build this really cool company that's done some really good work, and I'm really proud of that. But none of that happens without Randall trusting me, all right, to handle a part of that campaign. So that symbiotic relationship is one that I just always will appreciate, right? Because it definitely changed the course of my life.
I am loud and unapologetically conservative. But that does not mean that there are policies pushed, supported by Democrats that I believe are good for our communities. Like, I want to ask my friends, though, specifically, why do you make the political choices you've made, or how do you come upon your political choices?
Sure. So for me, it's about opportunity, right? I grew up in Fairfield. Some of my classmates had really good opportunities just based on who their parents were and the households they grew up in. And then some of my classmates and even members of my family didn't have access to some of those opportunities, right? And for me, it's about the party or the person that can present and bring more opportunities to communities like the one I grew up in. Because I know that exposure is more than half the battle. And we can expect people to become great if we don't actually show them greatness. So for me, the Democratic Party represents a party that believes that women should be able to make their own choices in regards to their bodies. They represent a party that believes in the value of education. They represent they're a party that represents and understands the burden of student loan debt and what that means when you graduate and try to buy that first car or a house and attempt to build wealth. So for me, it's about who's going to be in power and who's going to understand the needs and wants and desires of the communities that are similar to the one I grew up in. And that's my calculus.
Gotcha. Now, November's almost here.
Yes, sir.
What's next for you? Like, once you win, we know we're going to claim these victories for you. But what's next on the agenda as it relates to CBG strategies and MacMail advertising?
Sure, man. So, I think a lot of people know, but, MacMail was founded by my father and I. So that's near and dear to my heart. So MacMail for the last 14 years has been really dedicated to getting the right people in the right positions, right? You get Randall Woodfin in, and now you have Birmingham Promise to send the kids to college year after year after year after year. So in regards to MacMail, I want that impact to remain in place and to grow that brand and that reach, and to focus not only in political races, but also issue-based races, which usually go kind of under the radar. For CBG, it's all about expansion. We've been very blessed and fortunate over the last 6 years to work with a host of different clients, mostly in the Southeast, but we've done work as far away as Los Angeles and as close as 3 blocks away from where we're sitting right now. So for CBG Strategies, we want to continue to grow our footprint, do more corporate work. We say that we sit at the intersection of community, business, and government. And the more that we entrench ourselves into the community, the more we understand those needs and can help translate those to corporations and governments to help dissolve the space between, say, corporate entities and the people that they seek to serve. So for us, it's all about expansion. Man, so who's next? And that's critically important, right? So what's most exciting about the time we're in right now is that young people are really involved. I don't buy that, young people still on the sidelines. No, there's some young folks really plugged in. And the fact that Kamala Harris created a TikTok lets you know that young people are in and engaged. But it's the Maya Jollies, who's a former CBG employee now over at Miles College leading public relations. She's up next. It's the Megan Hollins, who, Lord, she just made a switch, but formerly PR director at HABD, former CBG alumni. She's up next. It's the Morgan Robinsons, who's leading the field for Shamari Figures. She's up next. It's the Cal Adams, who just graduated from UAB. I think his degree is in political science, who got accepted into Georgetown's policy program, Masters of Policy program, but decided to stay in Alabama to help Shamari Figures cross the finish line. So he'll be going to Georgetown this fall. That young man is up next. EJ, who's in law school, he's up next. And I'm somebody gonna really be angry at me because I forgot some names, but I'm 41, so y'all gotta forgive me. But those people, that's who's up next. And really, they up now, right? And I think that they're gonna move and accelerate at a rate that's much quicker than what than I did, right? So I'm super excited to see them grow. And when I become an old man, I hope that they give me a job.
I know that's right. We always hear that this is the most important election of our time and whatnot. What would you impart upon your peers who may not be inspired to vote, or those who are inspired to vote? What do you have to say about it?
I'm going to say 2 things. The first one is this: to anybody, no matter where you live, the Harris versus Trump race is not Democrat versus Republican. It's really not. It's democracy versus dictatorship, right? Now, I haven't read all 900 pages of Project 2025, but what it essentially seeks to do, we have 3 branches of government, which everybody knows that. They essentially want to shift power out of the judicial and legislative branches to make the executive branch more powerful, right? So we're built on a balanced system. Trump, Project 2025, and those who support it, they want to essentially make the president a king or queen. And we all know that we know that absolute power corrupts absolutely. So forget Democrat and Republican, man. This is about preserving democracy. And Kamala Harris will not only do that, but I really believe she has a plan to put our country on the right track. In regards to, I'm thinking about the congressional 2 race, which Shamari, who's a proud millennial, just like myself, and so is the opponent. She is a millennial. And for the millennial generation, we're at a crossroads in Congressional District 2, right? We have an opportunity to elect a millennial to Congress. That's the good news. The bad news is these 2 millennials are not the same, right? So we have Shamari Figures, educated in public schools from K all the way through law school, who chose a career path in public service through federal government, who worked for President Obama, who worked for Loretta Lynch, and who has a vast, not only his professional experience, but his lived experience, right? Mobile urban core isn't very much different to Birmingham's urban core. We all experience the same things. Versus someone who grew up in Monroe County and attended what's commonly referred to as a segregation academy, which were born out of when Brown versus Board of Education passed. Some places like started these segregation schools that did not integrate. Someone who supports the Project 2025 agenda, which includes the elimination of the Department of Education. So millennials, who do you want to represent our generation in Congress, right? Do we want someone that's relatable, that has the experience necessary to get the job done, but more importantly, understands the issues of the most common person? Or do we want someone that aligns themselves with talking points of the Republican Party and of Project 2025, right? Because when the history books are written in this new district that was created to give African Americans a voice in Alabama, and your grandchildren ask you, what did you do? Right? You want to be able to be a part of the right side of history, right? And I want my story to be that I did everything I could to get the right person in Congress to bring resources back to this state and to vote on laws and pass laws that impact every single person in the nation. So for me, it's very personal, and we can't take this moment for granted. We can't take this opportunity for granted. Every single person in the state that believes in democracy, that believes in progress, I ask you personally to support the Figures for Congress campaign by making a donation. It doesn't matter how big it is, for volunteering, for no matter where you're at. We have virtual phone banks. You can hop on the phone and call voters throughout the district. And if you happen to live or be close to District 2, we want everybody to go to Georgia and help President Harris, Vice President, soon to be President Harris, win Georgia. But we also need you in Montgomery County. We need you in Mobile. We need you in Macon County. We need you in Russell County. We need bodies because we know we won't outraise her, right? She's already spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.3, $1.4 million of her own money. That's the loose change for her. And while Shamari is an incredible candidate, I don't think my brother got a couple of million laying around he can just put in the race. So we need your support. We really do. And I know that on November 5th, we'll all be smiling ear to ear when Kamala Harris is the first Black female president of these United States. And my friend Shamari Figures is in Congress, hopefully voting to elect Hakeem Jeffries the next Speaker of the House.
Your past, present, and future as it relates to politics. Have you gotten out of it what you wanted to get out of it? Are you on track? What changes do you want to see? And what does the future hold from where you sit?
Have I gotten out of politics what I wanted? So my initial desire was just to put the right people in the right place. And I'm not even sure I knew exactly what that meant. I think the quick answer is yes. But to be honest, I didn't have a ton of expectations out of it. I mean, when I started Matt Mail, it was like, yo, if I can buy a couple of watches and go on the trip, if that's all I do from a financial standpoint, I'm happy. Right? I wasn't quite sure how to make a entire career out of it until I really got in it.
Mm-hmm.
Presently, I'm happy about kind of where the firm is and where I am in regards to getting the right people in the right places. As we look towards the future, I swear I'm gonna stop doing political races. And it's funny because when you look at our overall portfolio, political races are maybe 25 to 30%, but for whatever reason, that's what people like to talk about. And I get it. It's public facing. It makes a difference. But I want to continue to grow that 75 to 70 to 75% of the business. So corporate clients, more government clients, getting into more maybe of the policy lane. It's a lot of things that I really want to do. It's like when you get to a certain point, you realize that it's not enough. Getting people in office is not enough, right? You need people working on policy. You need people working on community engagement. You need people being able to communicate to communities that usually are overlooked. All of those things are equally important. So I really would like for my future to focus more on that. But I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to get. Well, you know, politics is addictive, right? You get that first big win, and you get that rush, that adrenaline rush, and then you chase it for years and years and years, and you finally get another big one, and you get it again, and you it's like this cycle that just repeats itself. So what I've learned over the last probably 5 years is to not try to chart out my course down to a science, because God kind of is the ultimate decider of which way my ship sails. So man, honestly, I just want to be faithful to God and let him continue to kind of guide my journey, and just try to make the best decisions, man. I've been blessed and fortunate. But yeah, just continue to work hard, recruit the right people, and yeah, continue on this journey.
I want to say this, right? Since you were on the podcast, you got married, new baby. How is life in the McAdory household? Tell me what's going on.
It's busy, bro. Yeah, it is busy. So we got all right. So the girls, Jordan and Arden, are freshmen in high school, bro. Can you believe it? I mean, yeah, they freshmen in high school. Jordan is in a performing arts high school. She wants to be the next Issa Rae, and I think she can do it. Arden is the social butterfly, super smart, and is taking her school by storm. She wants to be an architect, and I believe that she's gonna one day produce some really cool architectural buildings that we're gonna all marvel at one day.
Yeah.
Then the boys are both in second grade. Hampton is becoming this little baseball star. He really enjoys it, super passionate about it. McKinnon is extremely smart. He's playing soccer, and you know, McKinnon kind of really does live in his own world. He's unfazed, but you know, he's enjoying life. And then we got L3, we got Lindsey the third, and my father-in-law, Lindsey being named for my father, not me, but he is a third. My father-in-law calls him the Tasmanian Angel.
That's a new one.
He's busy, man. He's keeping me on my toes. He's learning and growing every day. I mean, he's moving. He's into everything. And of course, Toya is the CEO of the house, making sure that we all stay in line, including myself. So just eternally grateful to her. I mean, without her really holding it down, I wouldn't be able to be on the campaign trail and doing all the other things I got my hands into. So just really appreciative for those 5 children and her. And really, that's at the end of the day, you know, when I'm gone, nobody's going to really care about how many people I got elected to office. Nobody's going to care how big I grew these companies. Those 6 people will really define who I was as a man, right? So if those 6 can't give a good report, it really don't matter what the rest of the world thinks.